Thank you.
And we're going. Welcome everybody to this week's Alternative Health Lab. My name is Mike Warren and I'm with a company called Alternative Health Concepts. You can see our website directly under my name and encourage you all to go there and join our tribe and become part of this community that we're growing now and trying to get the word out to people about how you can help heal yourself through alternative means. And so that brings us to a topic today that we're going to have. I'm going to introduce you to our guests here real quickly, but we're going to talk a little bit about emotional healing and emotional freedom and what that means and how it works and delve into a little bit of what it can do for us as individuals. But before I do that, I'd like to introduce my partner right directly underneath me. I don't know where it'll be on the replay because I always say this, and then when we see the replays, it just scrambles everything up and we're all everywhere else. So right now, he's underneath me. His name is Dr. Wayne Dorman, and just a great guy. He helps us with all of our, at Alternative Health Concepts. As I mentioned, he partners with us and he runs all of our marketing efforts for what we sell, our BioPro Plus product and our now Bio Equalizer product for animals, which you can see on their website. So at any rate, Wayne, why don't you say hi and tell a little bit about yourself before we get started.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you today. Dolores, good to be on with you. I'm excited about hearing from you. I'd just like to encourage everybody that comes on, or if you watch on the replay, that you can interact with us. The purple little print that's going to be on the chat bar is actually clickable links that you can do, and we'll have some other of our staff, I think possibly Teresa is helping to put some things over there, so she'll be putting up information you can click on and share with your friends, share with your tribe. For whatever reason, my camera is it sketchy on your end, Mike? It looks like it's just sort of flickering more than it normally does. Do you see it?
It looks very good, Wayne. Yeah, it looks very clear.
All right, awesome. And just interact with everybody, ask questions. You can put a / in a queue, and the question will show up over on the left-hand side. There's something relatively new, which is you can actually share the last 30 seconds to your tribe, whoever that might be. That you can see over here on the left side, and that would be cool for you to do. Otherwise, I'm going to sit back and listen, and I'll throw some questions in when they're appropriate. Go ahead, Mike. Let's get going.
Great. Well, really excited about our guest today for a couple of reasons, and I'll get into those reasons in a bit after we get involved with her and understand what she does. But we have Dolores Andrew Gavin here today, and Dolores is an author. She's a soul care practitioner. She's a Reiki master and teacher, an EFT master practitioner, and a quantum touch therapist. And all of those things I want to get into. I know that if you came here to our lab today, we talked about emotional freedom technique, and that's what we're going to talk about primarily, or at least we're going to start off with. But I really want to get into some of these other areas also, Dolores. So I want to have you introduce yourself real quickly and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do. I hope I'm included everything. If I didn't, please correct me.
I know, that's okay. It sounds like I know I have a fair range there. Yes, basically my previous career was all in the law, believe it or not. And I changed career, and everything I do now is in the health and wellness arena, basically. So I started off, I guess, as an energy therapist, and I also blog. I started blogging. So my blog is a health and wellness blog. And between all the different years of practicing different therapies and that, I suppose my resume of therapies has grown. And even my books that I've self-published are books for children to help them deal with their emotions. So I have a huge desire to help people realize that they are the creators or the drivers of their own. You know, I don't mean to sound like very, much like that we create everything ourselves and so on, but we can deal with our emotions in such a way and react to things in such a way that cause different results to happen for us. So my whole work involves that area of helping people realize and become aware that there is a part of our life that we can control, whilst we can't control everything. So all the different little bits I do, like the Reiki and the quantum touch, are both energy therapies that unblock energy basically for people. In a way, it's not a talking therapy, but people still get great release from it, so that they can then. Sure, jump in anytime.
I want to stop you right there, because I am new to this whole arena, if you will, and it's something I've known about, but it became very personal this past week with my wife, and I'll get into that in a minute. But what I wanted you to differentiate there was, when you're talking about energy, obviously we're all made up of energy, and that's what we communicate through different forms of energy and so on and so forth. But when you're talking about blocks and emotional blocks on us that might help us or hinder us from healing, or from just being a better person, or being the person that we are meant to be, explain a little bit about that, and go into a little bit about how you can help unlock that. Because like you said, it's not verbal. It's literally energy that is transferred, and it's quite amazing, as I have found out. I'll share a little bit in a minute.
Yeah, great. I love this conversation. So I do a lot of work with chakras as well, which are the energy centers of our body. Okay, we have and the way I like to start off the conversation is that just like our veins and our arteries pump the blood around our body from our heart on a physical level, on the more unseen or emotional, energetic level, our meridians is where the energy flows around our body. And there are different centers then, as well as the meridians, located, some of them along our spine, the chakras. They're energy centers, and each of these energy centers governs a different awareness. And with emotions, what an emotion is emotion, energy in motion. So basically, a fear is an energetic response to a situation that we come across. If we're fearful and this energy freezes, then we have a frozen piece of energy in an area. And usually, and the way I like to describe the chakras in a very easy way too is, if we might feel butterflies in our tummy, let's say, that's an energetic response to something. So that is, it's almost proof that we feel our emotions at this energetic, unseen level. So this is where we get blocks then, like we can feel the block of fear that keeps us stuck maybe in the past, in our stomach area, in our power center. We may not be able to speak our truth to someone. We may have a block in our throat chakra, which could be an emotion as well that's stuck, an emotion of fear, of speaking up, of getting our project out there to the world, because we might think that nobody wants to hear us. Hearing also has to do with the throat chakra. That's it in a sort of a small way. Just that kind of, and then of course there's the whole thing about, that's why I love working with the chakras, because we can identify. It's like when we go to a shopping centre with a list that we need to buy our dinner. We go to different shops to buy different things. I love to use the chakras as sort of a template almost to say, where am I stuck? Which energy center do I need to go to? Like, which shop would I go to get the meat? If it's a power thing, I need to go to my third chakra, which is my power center. If I'm not listening to somebody and I know they're trying to give me good advice, or there's an issue around that communication, it's throat. I may have a very old wound in my heart that's stopping me. Maybe my heart's not in the work I'm doing. These are heart chakra issues. There's energy stuck at a center that can be unblocked basically by energy therapies.
Yes. Okay. So let's talk about. Actually, I want to take a step back, because you intrigued me at the very beginning. You said you were in the law before. You were in law. So tell us a little bit about your story. That's got to be an interesting story about how you went from that to where you're at today.
Yeah, I jumped a bit there, didn't I? You did ask me to say a bit about myself. I'm not very good at the throat chakra. I don't love talking about myself.
Well, that's okay. We like hearing about you.
Oh, thank you. I suppose when I started in law after school, I didn't really follow a career that I was passionate about. It was it was a choice of career that was almost made for me. So it wasn't one that, you know, when you're young, it's you don't know really, you don't always know which way you want to go. I always wanted to go into marketing, but, you know, I kind of followed in my sister's footsteps and out into the legal world, and I ended up there for a long time. Now I did study, and I went on, and I got a diploma in legal studies, but my heart was never in the job, I guess. I loved it. I was good at it by the time because I was there 15 to 18 years between everything, freelancing and that. But, you know, whilst I liked it, I didn't love it. You know, I wasn't following my passion, let's say. And then I got married and I had children, and everything changes when we have children. And then we also had the recession, which meant that because I was freelancing and doing very well during the Celtic Tiger, when the recession hit, because the property market went, obviously people, you know, I was in an office that dealt a lot with conveyancing. There was no work for me, basically. So I had my children as well, and I had always had an interest in natural solutions, is what I love to call it, because, you know, my oldest sister was an aromatherapy massage therapist and a Reiki master, and I always used to love when she'd lay her hand on you if you were sick or if you felt unwell, because I always felt whatever she did, whatever magic she had in her hand, I always felt better after her being around. And then my oldest son, who's now 12, when he was 3, he was on an awful lot of steroids and antibiotics for asthma, and it used to kill me. He was on so many drugs for such a small child. So when they wanted to put him on a nebulizer, this big, huge thing, I just kind of went, can I just not for a minute? So I went the homeopathic route, and I've never looked back, and it worked for us. And my son doesn't have asthma, and he hadn't within a few months. So then I realized, wow, this stuff really works. So I do cigarettes also using EFT, emotional freedom technique, and I loved my cigarettes. They were something I held on to very tightly. There again, when that worked for me, there again I could see how I could. I went off point again, didn't I? Sorry. So I suppose that was my journey from law, my, you know, life and my path. And my work ended and dried up with the recession and that. And then I had my children, and it was a natural sort of progression into their health and, you know, and also their emotional health.
Yeah, kids kind of do that. They kind of become the center focus of your life at that point, obviously. Yes. And I've got three sons myself, and now a couple grandchildren. So it's an amazing, yes. The whole venture or journey is amazing with a family and what it does and how it changes you, which is exciting in itself. Okay, so now you get into this area of, is healing the proper term? Is that what you do? You help people heal, or is it more about the emotions and helping them to become better people, or maybe the purpose of what they're here for?
Yeah, and I also like to think I always say when I'm teaching my workshops that it's empowering people I don't heal anybody, as we know, you know. I would assist somebody, yes, I would, you know, I would give them tools. I think everything I do is tools to help them to do the work themselves. And that's the work I do with children. It's about empowering children to realize they have a choice. But yes, I suppose when someone comes to me, I am a therapist in that area where when I do my Reiki on someone, I'm holding a very high vibration with their highest intention in my head. So, you know, if they come to me for something, I have the intention that whatever they need to dissolve will dissolve, you know. But we don't have, like, if they have a sore back, they may need to, it might manifest as a sore back, but they may have issues that need to be dealt with. So they may feel a pain in their head during the session, that something may need to shift in another area, and then the pain in the back may go.
Sure.
Did I answer that okay?
Yes, absolutely.
I do talk a lot, so you need to hold me in every now and again.
No, that's fine. You're doing great. Just for those of you that may not know, I didn't really even say, but at the beginning of our lab here today, that Dolores is actually in Ireland, and so when she talked about the recession and some of the things that she was going through in her personal life, it obviously was directly related to Ireland there. So that might have been I just wanted to throw that in so people knew where you're from. Okay, so let's get to this emotional freedom technique that you do. Now, is it safe to say, with what I know about that, that this is because there was a big world summit called tapping?
Yeah.
Is it the same thing? Is that one and the same, or are they similar? Or explain a little bit about what EFT is.
Sure. Yes. EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. So basically, if you have, like most things most ailments we have, whether it be chronic pain, whether it be an addiction to cigarettes or whatever, there's nearly always an emotional aspect attached to things. I mean, if my back can go on me, and then I start worrying about how am I going to bring the children to school, and I start worrying about other things, whatever they may be. So there's an emotional element nearly always comes along with the pain as well, which can actually make the pain in the back worse, because we're worrying, and then we get more tight, and our shoulders might be up around our ears, and not being able to relax. So when we're doing EFT, what we're trying to do is we're trying to release that emotional charge that an issue is having for us. Like as well, for me, I'll use myself as an example. When I was smoking, which I am now delighted I don't smoke anymore, but there was an emotional aspect to that. It's like I needed a cigarette. I felt I needed a cigarette, or it was like it was going to solve a problem for me. People when they smoke or when they have a drink, when they get excited, they might have a cigarette, they might light up. When they get anxious, they're all emotions. So,
Yes.
like what I had to target was I wanted to give up cigarettes, but it was the emotional part I was scared of, how I was going to act emotionally. So I chose to do EFT. And yes, I did watch the Tapping Summit with Nick Ottner, isn't it? And Jessica Ottner. I hope I'm pronouncing their names right. So yes, the EFT, I chose then to study from England, a lady called Dr. Sylvia Hartman. And that's who I did my course with. And I love her heart and soul protocol. I just loved it was easy for me to study with her, let's say. So that's how did I answer that okay for you there, Sarah?
No, that's good. So that brings us to the current time, and obviously you have other areas that you work with, and I'm assuming that the soul care practitioner, the Reiki master teacher, EFT, the quantum touch therapist, all those kind of go hand in hand, I'm assuming. Or is that a right assumption?
Well, if somebody comes to me, with a problem, they're coming to me, and I want to do what I can for them to, so that they get relief from their symptoms. So sometimes I will, if I'm doing EFT with somebody, and EFT is a talking therapy. I'm talking to somebody. We're talking through things. 20 minutes may be enough for somebody. They might have got to a stage where they've enough talking done. Other issues may have come up with them that they actually need to deal with. And I may ask them, would they like a bit of more gentle healing, like something like Reiki, so that they can lie down on a massage table and just get some gentle, and just energetic relief. People can feel very uplifted after a Reiki or whatever. So, I do blend therapies, but sometimes intuitively I'll somebody might ask me for EFT or might ask me for Reiki, and I'll kind of say, I also do this therapy, and maybe you'd like to try this instead or as well. So I can mix them if people want, sorry, my 7-year-old is sneaking here behind. I'll get him out of the way. So it's all about what the client needs, and yes, they can be interchanged. It's all energy we're working with in all the therapies I do, basically. So whatever way is going to get that energetic block to move, basically.
Okay, so how does your I guess you'd call it a practice or your what you do there? Do people come to you? Is this something that can be done over the internet like we're now? I mean, or is it something that you need to be with the person for it to be effective?
EFT is I work via Skype with people. EFT, because EFT is like I can show people the points basically through Skype. So it's, as I said, it's a talking therapy. It's definitely one that you don't have to be in person with.
Okay.
The soul care work I do is another one that you do not have to be with the person, but ones then like, well, you can send, I mean, if you can send healing to somebody distantly as well through the other one. So I guess they all really are ones that you can, you know, the person doesn't have to be, because energy follows thought,
Yes.
and our intention. So if we have an intention to send healing to somebody, it's like saying a prayer for them or wishing them well. We have that intention, and it's an energetic intention, so it works that way.
And I kind of like to think of that as how we're all connected in the universe. It really doesn't matter. We're all connected through these energies that we each have, and obviously those are proven energies, and it's been
exactly, yeah. And that's the wonderful thing about it, that they're like, and if somebody is skeptical, I am delighted that they come to me, you know, because I think it's wonderful for someone that's skeptical to feel a difference and to see how these wonderful therapies work.
Absolutely. I wanted to share a little bit about what has happened in my own personal life with my wife. But first, let me tell you that what we have learned, or what I've learned, and one of the things that Alternative Health Concepts promotes, we have an emphasis, if you will, on the immune system. And we believe that the body's own immune system is really the only way that you're going to heal yourself from any chronic disease. It has to be the body doing it. In other words, if you look at cancer, for example, traditional cancer methods are used with cut, burn, and poison, if you will, or chemotherapy, radiation, or surgery. Well, that only takes care of the symptom. The underlying cause of that tumor or cancer is an unhealthy immune system, because the immune system isn't able to get rid of the cancer cells that our body produces every day, and it does an amazing job of that normally. But if we're sick and we have a repressed immune system, then we aren't able to do that. And since Alternative Health Concepts is the sponsor of this show today, I'm going to give a little commercial out real quick. Please go to our website, Alternative Health Concepts, right underneath my name here, and check out an amazing product that we have called BioPro Plus. It's an amazing immune modulator that modulates our immune system, and it's a bioidentical protein that our bodies produce from our thymus gland. And you can learn more about it on the website. So enough of the commercial. But what I was getting to is that I have learned in my passion to help people, particularly with cancer, that there are three components to cancer that you have to, or any chronic disease, and that's mind, body, and spirit. You can call it soul, whatever you might want to do. The semantics of it aren't important, but there are really those three things you have to delve into to cure any chronic disease and allow your body to do it. We know that the mind is a powerful tool, and there's all kinds of different modalities that go along with that. The body, number one, has to start with the nutrition and the things that we put in our body. And then the soul, or the spirit, is the part that you're talking about. And many of you know that watch this and have followed that. My wife is dealing with an issue with cancer, and this is an area, this whole healing area, if you will, emotionally. We were given by our cancer coach that we go to a book for her to read called The Emotion Code. It's by Dr. Bradley Nelson, I believe. A wonderful book that talks about how emotions, something that could happen in your childhood days, as young as 3 or 4 or 5 even, but it puts a block up into your energy that you forget about, but it resides with your self-conscious, and it could be there for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And if you don't delve into that and release that emotion, it's always going to be there. And until that emotion is released, particularly if it's a negative emotion, it's going to fester and cause the energy in our body to possibly be the cause or the root of cancer or any type of chronic disease you may have. You mentioned with your son with asthma. I also had asthma, childhood asthma, and it took me till my 40s to get rid of it. but that's another story. So I want to bring it back to a little bit that this whole emotion code thing, to me, it sounded woo-woo. My father's a doctor, and so I was raised with that side of it, and it kind of sounds, I don't know, almost like a little too good to be true, if you will. It's like, how can this, I'm a skeptic by nature, I guess, in this kind of area. So long story short, my wife has been going to a naturopath to help with her situation. And the naturopath sent us to this doctor. He's a chiropractor, but he also does this emotional release, emotional freedom technique. He does several different modalities that have all to do with the actual healing of your emotions and what the emotions do and help you heal. So long story short, we went last week and I was very skeptical. I thought this couldn't really be true type of thing. And my wife has had severe pain down her legs and in her hand and in her lower back. So long story short, we were there for about an hour with this doctor, and he went through different modalities and different testing techniques, which was really interesting to me. That he would touch her and feel the energy, and he had an assistant that would actually touch her also, and they would work together to figure out. Long story short, we went home after about an hour. My wife's pain was gone. The lymph nodes swollen on the back of her knees within about 24 hours were gone. They were gone, no longer there. And this is something that no doctor or anybody has been able to help us with. It was simply unlocking some emotional blocks that she had in her body. And I tell you, nobody could tell me any different. And my wife is happier now. Her whole countenance changed. It was absolutely amazing. So that's why I was so excited to have you today, Dolores, because this little area, and it's only one of the 3 that I understand that you have to do, it's been life-changing. It really has. And it's opened up my mind to a whole different area that I would have never, ever thought was possible. So at any rate, so my hat's off to you. I really appreciate it. It's funny because I was talking to Risa, the gal that lives in Ireland, and she's on handling the chat over here. And she said, where can I go to somebody like that? Because I was telling her about our experience with this doctor. And the thought hit me today that after reading and understanding about you, Dolores, that she just needs to go see you as a good starting place. No, I'm really serious. I think it could be a great place for her to start. And so, Teresa, I know you're listening. Make an appointment with Dolores and go see her. I think she does a lot of what this doctor did for my wife, and I understand that.
Mike?
Yeah.
My quick question related to your wife was were those pains she was feeling in her assessment or in anybody that she was working with associated with the emotional stress from the knowledge of the cancer as well as other things, or what were they some circumstances even directly related physically in some way to the cancer?
Yes. Well, the answer is kind of twofold. The stress obviously was part of it, but it was an emotional situation that I really won't go into that was actually from her childhood. And I strongly believe now that part of the reason for the cancer was this emotional block that she's dealing with. So the thing down her leg, the pain down her legs, and the nodules that were on the back of her, on the backside of her knees, were her lymph nodes that were swollen and basically clogged and weren't draining properly. And when he released these different blocks that she had, and that's really what he called it, he was releasing these blocks that were blocking her body from working properly. There was an energy block that prevented the lymphatic system from draining properly. As soon as he did that, the pain was gone. It was absolutely amazing, Wayne. She has been just absolutely tired and just drained every day because of the fight she's fighting. But that was Thursday afternoon that we went to the doctor. We had a dear friend of ours had a birthday party on Saturday night, that we went to, and I tell you, my wife is usually in bed by 7:30 or 8 because she's so tired. We were out till 10:30, and she felt like, she could have danced on the night away. Absolutely amazing. And the doctor told her that you're gonna, and I, again, at this point, he was filling her head with positive mental attitude, and so she thought she could do it. And so every day I've been asking her, how you feeling? He told her that she was going to have a lot of energy, and that within a few days he was going to have her doing backflips. Well, it was true. It happened, and I just can't deny it. It's absolutely amazing.
You did a backflip? Did you get a video?
No, she didn't do that. She hasn't done that yet. But she has so much energy that she's like my old wife, was a few years before this all started. So
back on a little more practical side, how would you say that his interaction with her was different than what you might hear or read about that a traditional psychologist, psychiatrist, and not related to the lymphatic side of the system, but more unleashing, at least getting her to interact with this long-term emotional issue that you described that she had? Because that's what they would say that they do, obviously.
Yeah, and I don't maybe doubt that. I think the difference is that he is channeling into her energy. I've been to a psychologist many, many years ago with an issue that I was dealing with, and this was totally different. And I think this is what Dolores does, and she can probably talk a little more to that.
Maybe Dolores can talk to us about
that.
But
he would actually touch her and feel the emotion, and he would ask her questions based on what he was feeling from her, not something techniques that he's learned psychologically. In other words, ask this question if she answers this way. She was not saying anything, Wayne. She literally wasn't saying anything. He was testing her muscles, which is a form of applied kinesiology to certain things. Like he would say this or that, and then he would test her arm strength, and then if she responded weak, then he knew that was an issue he had to go into. And he like dived into different areas of her life.
I've actually seen that, and I get that. But at some point, she had to verbalize, or did he surmise something about the previous emotional issues, but that it had to be, it somehow had to come up in a verbal sense?
It did, but it was more of an emotional sense, because I knew some of the factors that were probably there, and we didn't share anything with him. Because again, I'm very skeptical on any of this kind of stuff. It's my wife's life, number one, that we're dealing with, and I love her dearly, and she's not going anywhere as far as I'm concerned. So I was coming at it to another issue where I wanted to see what was happening. So long story short, without him saying anything, he got to the root of her problem, and it happened to be a family situation where he had no way of knowing her. It was almost like a psychic channeling her. I mean, it was bizarre. I would have never believed it. And I'm sitting here right now today saying I would have never believed it. But that's why I was excited to have Dolores. And maybe we can shift to Dolores. And I see somebody trying to call in. Can I have you just give us a few minutes, let us finish, and then we'll open this up to your questions. If you can give us just a few minutes, I appreciate it.
Yeah, Dr. Paimani, thank you so much. And we'll let you come in just a second, as Mike said. Dolores, please, you've been really patient listening. Appreciate that.
Okay. No, it's great. I mean, it's wonderful. I'm delighted to hear that your wife has had such release. And there again, I think it's too, because with something like energy work, as you said as well, you're getting to the root, but you're also dealing with somebody as an individual, which is something that you alluded to there as well, because not everybody deals with this. Okay, so let's say there are 4 children in a family, and for example, if there's issues with the mom and dad, let's say, each of those 4 children will perceive and take on a different story based on their reality, and that becomes their reality. And they may, at an older age, they might be so amazed at how they have different stories over the same, people say, I don't know how you saw that. I don't know how you saw that mom was that way. I always saw her as this, or vice versa with dad, or whatever. It's because it's based on our our subconscious that's there, that's the hidden part of it, and our beliefs. If we have a belief about or something, or form a belief about ourselves at a very young age, it's how we perceive the rest of our life almost, and it's how our stories are formed, and our stories are our life, and our emotions are tied in with our stories. And that's one way I always get people, it's a little exercise I often say to people to do, is write your story and circle the emotions to find out what the root of the problem is that you're having, what's manifesting. You can tell Daddy I'm on a call. Sorry. You can get to the root of a problem by looking at the emotional state and clearing and looking at the emotions, because each of the emotions we have are actually, they're neurological triggers almost. If we are fearing something, it's our body automatically pushing us into this fear mode. The fight, flight, or freeze? And sometimes we need to be fearful. So that fear is actually telling us something. If we're sad, we may need to to let go of something. If we're angry, we may feel as though our boundaries are not intact, that somebody's attacking us. So this is all our stories and all our perceptions from when we're young. And I think that's why these work so well, because you're tapping in, when you're using EFT, to the person as an individual, you're tapping into their particular belief systems that they have, not their sisters, because it's not their sister that has the issue. So yes, you're dealing with the absolute just one person at a time, because none of us are the same. Not one of us will handle the same situation the exact same way as another person. And that's, I think, why energy work gets to the root of a problem, why it's sometimes more like a generic drug will work, but not get into it might mask something. And I have no issues with people taking obviously medication when they're needed. I'm not anti-medication or anything, but I think that energy work can work hand in hand with it, because like that you're getting to the emotional root of something and you're yanking it out. You're not masking it. You're not cutting back the weeds. You're taking it by the root and you're taking it out. You're pulling that false belief I have about a story I saw when I was young, about how I perceived it, about what emotion got stuck, about what belief got stuck around that emotion. Maybe I got fearful. Maybe I thought I was alone. Maybe I felt I wasn't capable of being loved. Maybe I just formed this whole story that had loads of different things tied to it that isn't actually the reality of the situation at all. Or maybe it just needs to be unraveled now.
Yeah. That answers a lot of it, because it isn't necessarily about what we know. And there's a question over here. Let me just throw this up. Teresa put this question up. It says, do you find that people are reluctant to feel the pain of past issues and avoid these therapies? What I can tell you right now is that those past issues have nothing to do with avoiding these therapies, because you don't know that you have these issues. You don't know that you have these blocks until somebody like Dolores can come in and help you to unblock those things and bring them to the forefront. These are deep-rooted, deep-seated in your subconscious. Now, did I say that right? Is that accurate, what I just said, Dolores?
Yeah, and also, like, I don't believe also, now this is, when I say something, it's my opinion. I don't believe that I always have to, bring somebody back to the past. You don't, I mean, if you go for an energy session that's not a talking therapy, like let's say somebody comes to me for Reiki rather than EFT, that person may cry during a Reiki session, or they may go home and feel very tired and release something. They don't have to go back and relive something in the past. There's never any need to, in my opinion, unless some people love to get to the root of a problem, talking it out, like through EFT, which is the talking therapy. But really, sometimes issues can, something that's causing like let's say something that's stuck in our back that's causing, maybe we feel lack of support, and they often say lack of support is lower back issues. So if we feel that we don't have support, I mean, you can resolve these, and if it's something that's not really something that we need to thrash out almost, we can help it dissolve through a non-talking therapy, if you know what I mean. You don't somebody can have an abreaction, it's called. I don't want to take somebody back to something that brings them to such a state that they have to energetically go through the same fear they felt or the same trauma. There's no need for that, I don't think. I would deal with somebody if somebody had a very a strong issue that they don't want to talk about, where do you feel it is more, and deal with where they feel an issue, where they feel this stuck energy, rather than bringing them back and letting them have to repeat the story that caused the original
so you just hit on Wayne's question, actually. And Wayne, if you could, my screen isn't allowing it. I'm going to break in here. If you can unlock the chair and maybe let the doctor come back in, and mine isn't allowing me to do it. I appreciate it. But what I was going to say is that is exactly what happened to my wife, Dolores. It's not like she had to relive anything. He just pinpointed what it was and unblocked it, and basically threw it away. She didn't have to do anything. Yeah. It was just gone. And that block that was deep rooted, as you mentioned, in her subconscious, was gone. And that was what was so cool about it. So
because anyway, what's deep rooted in our subconscious is actually driving our life. We may always go to a certain point in a project, even at work, and get stuck at the same thing. Why is that? Well, what is stuck? What is in the driver's seat? Are we just, going through life, looking out the window, admiring the view and wondering how we got there? Or are we actually in the driver's seat, driving it and coming from a place more of conscious awareness of what we're doing, rather than blindly being led by the subconscious? There's no guilt or shame around that. It's just an awareness. And when we come to realize that actually, wow, I can jump into that driver's seat, it's a great feeling. It doesn't mean that it's going to be an easy ride. It just means that we actually realize that we can actually dig out these deep-rooted stuff that's keeping us stuck in the past and maybe manifesting as a physical illness or an emotional illness.
My system's not allowing either. I've clicked on the show callers and accept several times, and it's just not acknowledging it. Possibly, Dr. Mahani, you could refresh your screen real quick and come back in. It could be, maybe try that.
Okay, I was going to say that maybe I need to refresh, because I started
maybe refresh.
So let me jump out. Can you just continue, Dolores? Give us a story maybe of something that I know you have some amazing stories. Give us one of your favorite stories of somebody that you were able to help with before.
Before you do that, let me ask one other.
Mine came open. My seat came open, so I think I was able to open it.
Did it do?
Yeah.
Did it work?
Yeah.
Okay. So, doctor, if you want to come back in, he's actually left.
Okay. He gave up. But he might have been refreshing, like you said.
He might. That's right. We asked him to refresh so he could come back in. Is there, if a person feels emotionally stable, is there still a good reason to, here he goes, he's coming back in now. Is there still a good reason to possibly consider, there he comes in, a session just for dealing with something prospectively rather than reactively?
Well, if somebody doesn't have an emotionally charged story, then I think for well-being, something like a non-talking therapy would be probably more productive for the person. It may release something that they don't know, that's keeping them stuck, that maybe not a very deep-rooted issue that needs to be thrashed out and talked about, So, sessions like energy work, like Reiki and all that, are wonderful for just giving us a boost of energy. Like you said, your wife got energy. It just gives us what it does is it's just getting the energy flowing again, let's say. Whilst, if someone comes to me with EFT is about speaking the story that's stuck. So if there's no story to speak per se, then it mightn't be the best therapy to go for. So I wouldn't recommend someone goes for EFT just for general uplifting unless they have a story that they want to shift and change awareness about.
Dr. Corey, welcome.
Yes, hello. I love your subject, everyone. It's very, very refreshing, because I'm a researcher, and this has been a focus of my research, whether it has been in psychology, business, and law, which I have been having, credentials and research in that area. And basically, with what I do now, I do encompass the life coaching and career coaching and business consulting, into one central platform of dreams come true coaching. And why do I say that? Because alternative medicine has been my forte. Due to the fact that my father was a medical doctor, I progressed into focusing on the mind, and I went into psychology and I got my PhD and so forth. And before that, I went into, got my, I was a bodybuilder at one time, and I did all kinds of physical work, and I went into massage therapy and worked with chiropractors, and then, from there, when I went to psychology back to school, I started, exploring. You mentioned the talk therapy and all of that. Of course, I have my credentials in psychotherapy and whatnot, but I decided to go forward, and then I explored hypnosis, neuro-linguistic programming, and parapsychology into psychokinesis and telepathy and all that kind of stuff. And Mr. Mike, when you talk about your wife, the emotional connection, I mean, that says it all. And Ms. Dolores, when you talk about, talk therapy, I had an extensive research that name of my dissertation actually was about poetic expression. Due to the fact that when we get emotional and we talk about our feelings, usually we become sort of a poetic, we take that kind of stance, so to speak. And we start to, kind of get confusing and not make sense. So the more emotional we get, the more poetic we get, the more confusing we get, the more clarification we got to make, and it just becomes more of a mumbo jumbo. And now
I think that Dr. Corey, I think that might be part of the problem with this whole area of research, if you will. How do you quantify this? How do you test against it? How do you do all those type of researches? And I tell you, like I said, I would have never believed it. If you would have told me that I would have walked into that guy's office and he would have done a few things connecting to my wife's energy, and she would have come out not having any pain in her leg that she's had for months, I would have said you're nuts.
And I love the way you talk about, I love the way you talk about the poetry, because if you read poetry, you're talking in symbols. And when you're talking in symbols, you're talking the language of the soul. You're getting into a different level of your consciousness, and you're speaking your story in a way that is so hard to understand. Just like our dreamland, where our subconscious is allowed to come to the fore, and everything is in symbols, where we might dream of a big dragon, but the big dragon really isn't actually a dragon. It's symbolic of something. It's metaphor, and it's all these wonderful symbols. So, but you're going into the essence of yourself when you're in that realm, and you're getting into that creativeness. And yes, it can be confusing, but if you can push meaning to the metaphor, you're opening up the language of your soul, and you're getting into the nitty gritty and what needs to shift.
Yeah, but don't take this wrong, due to the fact that it's a very hazy place in psychology and research into this, because, like you said, Mr. Mike, people, like in science, try to quantify this, but it cannot be measured and quantified. My study was qualitative, which is a very controversial thing even in the scientific department, because qualitative studies are basically recording, just like parapsychology is. They record all these events or phenomenon, if you will. So because of that, even in psychology, like they say, okay, parapsychology is this is what the recordation was, and we still don't know what it is, whether you believe it or not, it exists or not. It's something out there, and we don't exactly know. But it's a very, I would say that on one side of the coin is subjective, and on the other side of the coin, the same coin is objective. And the whole point of the matter is that we subjectively as human beings feel with our hearts, but objectively talk with our heads. It's a filter that is there. So we are both objective and subjective simultaneously. And I decided, I've been a very sensitive person since childhood, and I have had, so many weird experiences and so on and so forth, which if my parents, for example, took me to the doctor at the time, probably the doctor would say, your kid is a little bit autistic or schizophrenic, and they would administer some sort of medication and whatnot. But fortunately, I am Jewish from Iran, and because of that, my father being a medical doctor at the time and so on and so forth, these kind of psychological events wasn't so prevalent like in United States for right away giving a kid or people because they hear voices and this and that or feeling a certain or have visions or whatever, and they right away give a medication and come back next week for me to see if it's lowering down,
Mike?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to run to another engagement here. We just had another cool person, Lily, come on. Lily, thank you for being on.
Lily.
And Dr. Pimani, thank you. Dolores, thank you. I'm going to jump off, and maybe if another person wants to jump in the chair, they can do. I have one last question for both Dr. Pimani and for Dolores. And Dolores, maybe specific for you. You said you have a 7-year-old. I'm curious how children live in dream worlds. It's their lives. And we begin to discourage it, I think, over time. I'm assuming you do the opposite. You're probably, as a parent now, maybe parenting a little different than I might have, for example, with my 4 kids. Mike, maybe you do with yours. Maybe we were all parented with, and there must be some potential positive impact there. So I'm going to jump off. I'll watch the replay and get the answer, but I thank you guys for being with us today. And Mike, as always, you did an awesome job. And Dolores, same for you. And I'm going to jump off.
Okay, Wayne. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, well, just to answer that question, yes. Part of the work I do is I go into schools and I do emotional awareness or emotional intelligence with children. So, the big
that's what I was trying to get at as well, because
and the motion, what I always say is when we're aware we can change, then we can change. Because, yes, children are very magical when they're young, and we're told to sit down, we're told to be quiet. And we're sit down and we're told to be quiet at times when that's necessary, and that's fine. I'm not saying parents are wrong doing that, but there are times when we're told, our imagination is clipped, our wings are clipped, we have to perform all the time. And then things close down. Then we start believing that if to get attention from so-and-so, we need to do this. Then we start forming beliefs that if we do this, this gets us attention. If we do that, it gets us bad attention, but at least it's attention. All these stories start to form again. So the work I do in schools with children is to help children realize that it's okay to have their emotions. Each and every one of them is important. We all have all these emotions inside us, and that we can't repress anger, really. Or should I say, it's not good to repress anger. We could be angry because somebody angers us, and we need to put things out. If we're told, children should be heard and not seen, and if we're told we're not allowed an opinion, swallowing this, but we're not getting rid of it. If we swallow it, it's getting stuck somewhere.
Yeah, that's exactly
the blocks, emotions, and later on in life, that then we have to go and go to a therapist to clear these blocks, as you said, Mike, from years ago. They don't go away unless they're tapped into and gotten rid of.
That's exactly, Mr. Loris. I was getting into that. We have all these feelings, and we are very emotional beings, and from very from the start, from the childhood, our parents try to tell or try to basically train us to be more basically able to behave, be able to straighten out, trimmed and so on and so forth, and say the right thing and do the right thing, and we become more and more cerebral as we
and what is the right thing? Who says what the right thing is?
Yeah.
Yes, but now emotional, after the information, now the intelligence age is the next door forward. And now I teach, for example, due to the fact of intelligence age, there is artificial intelligence, there is emotional intelligence, and in general, intelligence platform is appearing more and more forward. And because of that, I am teaching now telepathy or awareness of telepathy. And I was going to say that since from the very start, we are telepathic beings, for example, and we before we have words, we with our gestures and voices, kids, babies, they start to communicate. And telepathy is just communication. We are communication beings. But then we become more and more, in a sense, primitive as we try to learn, perfect or better words, and we become less and less communicative because of lack of words, if you will. So we keep on explaining the explanations, and we try to keep clarifying and reclarifying and all of that. But now intelligence age is beyond the regurgitation of our information, and that's why schools are becoming more and more basically outdated, because we're writing books about books, and then with the technologies, we just talking the talk. So telepathy is one step forward.
So getting back to the subject, I don't mean to cut you off. In fact, I'd like to I know that you've already followed me and I've followed you. Maybe we should have a whole nother blab with you as our guest. We do this weekly. We do this weekly, by the way, Dr. Corey. So
good idea.
We'd like to maybe do that. We're at the top of the hour, and Dolores is in Ireland, and I know she's got some kids running around probably wanting dinner if she haven't already had it. So
okay.
I want to kind of wrap this up for today, but I really appreciate you coming on. But let's stay in touch.
Great.
Get with me on Twitter or something, and maybe we can have.
Yes, same here.
I would love to get maybe go into your whole area, because it sounds like you have some really cool things also too.
It's my profession, actually.
Yeah, well, let's do it then.
Okay, great.
Let's
and you can feel free to contact me. I'm all over the place. LinkedIn, Twitter, website, whatever.
Perfect. Thank you for coming.
It's a pleasure. Take care.
Thank you much. Bye-bye. Well, that was great. I'm glad he stepped in. So,
absolutely.
You started to tell what you did with the kids, and I want to kind of finish up on that, because obviously our kids are our future, and you've written many books, it sounds like, or several books, and I'm assuming that your books help the kids deal with their emotions.
Yes, indeed. I have written 2 children's books, and basically the first one is based on the topic of isolation in the schoolyard, and it's about they're about fairies, basically. So they're about fairies they're mythological, but they're mythological, and I love the mythological realm where we can bring in the magic that way, where we can talk to children in a way that is at their level, because their imagination is still open, mostly anyway. So we're talking about this fairy called Lorcan, who has been isolated in the schoolyard because he's been bullied, basically, and he's been told he's no good at anything. He's no good at football. He's no good at this. He's no good at that. So he believes that he takes on what people are telling him. But then throughout the book, he gets help. He gets help through Unicorn and Fairy Godmother, who help him believe in himself, basically. So he looks into his heart and realizes that actually he doesn't want to play football. He realizes he's good at playing music. So he follows that passion. And in the end, anyway, he goes on and he becomes a famous fairy in that area in the music industry. But he also starts playing football again, and because he now has dissolved all these stories that other people told him. He's actually good at football too. So it just shows how that we actually, if we listen to other people telling us what we should do or good at or that, you know, whatever, that we can actually start living the story that they're telling us, and we're not actually we're not living our own story. We're actually living the story that other people are telling us. Like, let's say other people may tell us we're no good at maths, so we believe that, and then we just don't think we're good enough at it, etc., etc. So those workshops go down really well in schools. I read the books first, or the book, whichever one it suits the children, and we talk about emotions then, and children realize that, gosh, yes, everyone is good at different things, and yeah, gosh, there are people we can get help from. And it's just it's clearing, it's flowing again, it's allowing flow come back to our little minds, and that's why I love working with kids as well as adults, but I think children, to get them at such a young age like that is great.
So that's exciting to me, because I mentioned my three sons are raised and have families developing of their own. So can we get your books for my grandkids here in the States, or how does that work?
Absolutely,
is it on Amazon?
Yeah, they're
on Amazon, or
I have my own. They're on my website.
okay.
Yeah, they're on my children's website, The Mythic Fairy. So yes, I have sent them to. I've a lot of friends in America, so they've travelled far and wide, different parts of America, and they're bilingual as well. So if you flip them over, they're in our Irish language as well as English.
No kidding.
Yeah, so it's nice. You know, it's nice for anyone that has Irish relations or whatever. You know, it's just nice to see the language, let's say. But it's the same story. It's the one book. It's just it's Irish, English, both sides, or one each side, should I say.
Okay, so for our replay, the people that aren't here today live or we'll see in the chat, what is your website that they should go to get the books? And
Teresa has kindly put it up. It's themythicfairy.com.
Themythicfairy.com. Okay.
And so also on that as well, there's a lot of stuff on that as well. There's an emotion tree basically, so children can go in, tap into emotions, and learn how to do EFT on my site. It's awesome. It's no charge on the site. You know, they can learn about emotions and realize they can change them basically. And I want it to be full of apps and more exciting things in the future when that's all developed.
Well, no, that's exciting, and we'll definitely, as you develop those things, we'd love to have you back. You know, with that, we're at the top of the hour. We're a little past. Just really appreciate your time today, Dolores. You've been an awesome guest. I just, this whole area of energy healing and tapping into your emotional code and understanding what our emotions are all about and how they can help us be better people is just amazing to me. It's so cool to me of what you do, and I'm so excited to have you. And thank you so much for being here. Really
thank you very much for the opportunity. It was wonderful. It was great to be asked. I'm delighted to be on, so thank you.
So with that said, I will give you the parting shot, the final say in our blab today, and then I'll turn off the recording after you're done.
You're giving me the last
I'm giving you the last word today. Anything you'd like to leave our people or viewers with, particularly the replay viewers?
Okay, so what I would say to people is, all as I said at the beginning of the blab, all an emotion is a piece of energy, and if we can look at emotions as just pieces of energy, we realize that energy flows, energy can get stuck, and that we have the ability to just release this. If we feel as though we're anxious all the time, just to realize anxiousness is an emotion. It's an emotional state, should I say. You know, it's developed around a mountain emotion, and yes, we can take back the driver's seat and get this piece of energy to start moving and help us release and get back the life that we actually want, or start the life that we actually want. As I said in the beginning, I didn't say it was always going to be easy, but it's possible to shift blocked emotions, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt.
Wonderful. And with that said, thank you again for being here. Last little bit of encouragement to anybody that enjoyed this blab today, please go to our website right underneath and sign up for our newsletter so that you'll get information about our future blabs and just great content. We send out 3 articles a week to help you help yourself and help your body heal itself. So with that said, thank you very much, and We'll see you next week.
Thank you.